is not part of this region.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to China.
From Pakistan, Maldives to Sri Lanka, and even to Bhutan and Nepal, to some degree, China has had an influence in the region.
China, the world's second largest economy, has significantly grown its presence in Asian countries over the past decade. This expansion is not limited to economic investments, but extends to political and cultural spheres as well. The Belt and Road Initiative, a multi-trillion-dollar project, promises infrastructure development across Asia. However, it often leads to heavy debts for recipient countries. For instance, Sri Lanka had to lease its Hambantota port to China for 99 years due to its inability to repay loans. Pakistan, another participant, now owes China over $5.8 billion. As Beijing extends its influence, smaller nations find themselves increasingly dependent on China, raising questions about sovereignty and autonomy. According to a 2021 study, 42 countries owe China more than 10% of their GDP. What drives China to expand its reach so aggressively, and what does this mean for the future of Asia? The answers may reveal unsettling truths about power, influence, and the cost of dependency for millions across this diverse region. China's presence in Asia has grown significantly in recent years, with the Belt and Road Initiative BRI playing a central role. This ambitious project, launched in 2013, aims to build infrastructure and broaden trade links between Asia, Africa, and Europe. However, the BRI has also led to controversy and concern, especially among countries heavily indebted to China. One of the starkest examples of this is Sri Lanka. In 2017, Sri Lanka handed over control of its strategic Hambantota port to China on a 99-year lease. This was because Sri Lanka couldn't repay the massive loans it had taken from China to build the port. As a result, China now controls a critical piece of infrastructure in the Indian Ocean, which has significant geopolitical implications. Critics argue that this is a clear example of China's debt trap diplomacy, where China lends large sums of money to countries for infrastructure projects, knowing they may not be able to repay, thus gaining control over key assets. Pakistan, another major participant in the BRI, now owes China over $5.8 billion. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC) is the most prominent part of the BRI, involving numerous projects aimed at boosting Pakistan's infrastructure. However, many Pakistanis are concerned about the growing debt and the control China is gaining over their economy. The CPEC has brought about infrastructure development, but at a high cost, one expert noted. Many fear that Pakistan is becoming too dependent on Chinese loans and investments, which could compromise its sovereignty. The same pattern can be seen in many other countries. According to a 2021 study, 42 countries owe China more than 10% of their GDP. Laos, for example, has taken on significant Chinese debt to fund infrastructure projects. As a result, it had to hand over majority control of its national power grid to a Chinese company in 2020. This has raised alarms about China's growing influence in the region and the potential loss of sovereignty for these countries. In addition to economic influence, China is also expanding its political and cultural footprint in Asia. Confucius Institutes, which are Chinese cultural centers, have been established in many countries to promote Chinese language and culture. While these institutes help foster cultural exchange, some critics see them as a tool for spreading Chinese propaganda. The Confucius Institutes are not just about teaching Chinese, they're about promoting China's political agenda, one commentator said. This is part of a broader strategy to increase China's soft power in the region. Another significant aspect of China's expansion is its military presence. The South China Sea is a prime example. China has built artificial islands and established military bases in this strategically vital region, despite competing claims from other countries. This has led to heightened tensions and fears of a potential conflict. China's actions in the South China Sea are a clear indication of its desire to dominate the region, an analyst explained. By establishing military bases and increasing its naval presence, China is asserting its control over vital shipping lanes and resources. China's influence is also evident in its control over critical technology infrastructure. Huawei, a Chinese telecommunications giant, has been involved in building 5G networks in many Asian countries. This has raised security concerns, particularly in the United States. where officials warned that Huawei could be used for espionage by the Chinese government. Allowing Huawei to build our 5G networks is like inviting a spy into our homes. One U.S. official warned. We need to be very cautious about the security risks this poses. One of the most alarming aspects of China's expansion is the potential impact on human rights. In countries like Cambodia, where China has invested heavily in infrastructure projects, there have been reports of land grabs and forced evictions to make way for Chinese developments. This has led to widespread protests and accusations of human rights abuses. The Chinese projects are displacing thousands of people and destroying communities, a human rights activist said. These people have no voice and no power to fight back against the might of the Chinese government. The growing influence of China in Asia is reshaping the region's political, economic, and social landscape. While the infrastructure projects and investments can bring about development and economic growth, they also come with significant risks. Countries that become too dependent on Chinese loans and investments may find themselves losing control over their own economies and sovereignty. The potential for increased military tensions and human rights abuses adds another layer of concern. Moreover, China's growing role in regional conflicts is becoming increasingly evident. In Myanmar, Chinese investments have been linked to ongoing violence and ethnic tensions. Critics argue that the influx of Chinese money is fueling conflicts and undermining efforts to achieve peace and stability in the region. China's financial involvement in Myanmar is exacerbating an already volatile situation, a regional expert noted. This has far-reaching consequences for local communities and regional security. China's economic and political strategies extend beyond immediate economic gains. By investing in strategic industries and infrastructure projects, China is positioning itself as a dominant force in Asia. For instance, the development of high-speed rail networks connecting China to neighboring countries not only facilitates trade but also enhances China's influence over the region's transportation infrastructure. This strategy has been described as economic statecraft, where economic tools are used to achieve political goals. China's use of economic statecraft is reshaping the regional order in its favor, one political analyst remarked. As we look to the future, it is crucial to understand the full implications of China's expansion in Asia. This involves examining not just the economic benefits, but also the potential costs and risks. It is essential for countries in the region to find a balance between leveraging Chinese investments for development and maintaining their independence and sovereignty. The stakes are high, and the outcomes will shape the future of Asia for generations to come. For nations in Asia, navigating this complex landscape requires a careful assessment of their economic partnerships and strategic alliances. It is not just about immediate economic gains, but also about long-term sovereignty and stability. The decisions made today will have lasting impacts on the geopolitical and economic landscape of Asia. Understanding these dynamics is key to ensuring that development does not come at the cost of independence and autonomy.